Hello everyone, Ashley here from the Woodland Wisp, and today I'm going to show you guys how to make this forest themed dragon eye mug. So I will let you guys take a closer look at this, and I am so happy with the way that this turned out. And if you've never done dragon eyes before, you will be pleasantly surprised at how easy this piece was to make. And I am really excited to share, so let's get right into it. So the first thing that you will need is a mug. Now, because I was doing a forest design, I did choose something that looked a little bit more natural to match that design, but you can use any mug you want. For clays here, I've got a combination of Sculpey, Premo, and Souffle. So I've got 2 shades of brown, 2 shades of green, and 2 shades of gray. And the green, I made the lighter shade by mixing some yellow. And then the grays were made by mixing different parts of black and white. For tools today, you will need a cutting tool, something to use for a roller, and then I've got my Straightpin here. And then I will be using one of these glass eyes, and you can make your own, but I bought these on Amazon and they were super cheap. And I will leave a link for that listing in the description for you guys. And then lastly, I've got some mica powders here. So I've got crystal white, bronze, and sunshine, and then some green and yellow that I will be highlighting the piece with when I'm done. So before we get started, this is a smooth, non-porous surface, and it is also rounded. So it's really important to make sure that you have good surface contact with your clay. And I have found that the best way to do this is to start with a backing. So I'm going to start with a thin sheet that I will lay down on the cup, and then I'm going to build my design on top of that. And we can't rough this up or make any kind of mechanical connection with the design. So I am going to be putting the whole cup in the oven and then afterwards popping that design off and gluing it back down. So that backing is not only going to maximize the surface contact, but it's also going to help ensure that my design comes off cleanly and in one piece. So I am starting with this lighter brown, and I've rolled out my backing, and then I've got 2 pieces here that I have just rolled out and pointed the ends. And I do have one that's a little bit larger than the other. And I am just going to roll these out nice and thin, and these will be my eyelids. So I'm going to take that glass eye and set it right in the center of this backing. And I chose the green one to go with my moss. And I am just going to press that eye in, and then I've got the larger one on top and the smaller one on the bottom. And I am just going to begin kind of shaping my eye. So I like to slant mine a little bit, and I am just going to play around with this for a minute until I get the shape that I want there. So now I've got my eye shaped, and we've got some gaps here on either side. So I am going to fold these back just down here on the ends. I want to leave them where they're at on the eyeball itself. And now I've got some of that darker brown, and I have just flattened these on the bottom and rolled them into little points. So I've got tiny little triangles, and I am just going to fit these right there where that gap was, and then we are going to cover them back over with those eyelids. And I usually make my upper eyelid overlap the lower one. So you don't have to, but I think that it looks more natural that way. And now that that's done, I am just going to smooth out these seams. So I'm going to smooth around the eye and then the lower seam and the upper seam. And I'm also going to take care of this over here on the sides. So now this is smoothed and I have got my straight pin and I am just going to add some wood lines to these eyelids. So I'm just dragging that needle. I'm going to start here at the edge, and it's okay if some of them are deeper or shallower, and it's okay if some of them run into each other as long as they're all moving in the same direction. And I am going to do both eyelids that way. This is what it looks like. And now I've got my two grays here, and I am just going to roll these into some different sized balls. So you want both colors and a lot of different sizes. And I'm just going to begin placing these. You're going to place it and then press it in. And I'm going to go all the way around the eye, and then I'm also going to move kind of diagonally off of each corner of that eye. And you want kind of good coverage. So, kind of place them closer together and push them into one another. It's okay if you have some gaps, and you can see that I'm keeping a little bit of distance between my eyelid and my dots here. So here it is, and I thought that it would be easier for you guys to see if I left it down like this, but I'm going to go ahead and put this on the cup. I'm afraid if I don't do it now, I'm going to ruin it after I have the rest of my stuff on there. So I'm just going to lay this on here and press it down pretty well. Like I said, again, you want really good surface contact on the back side. And now I'm going to take some more of this darker brown, and I am just going to add some woodwork. So I've got two pieces here that I have just rolled into vines, and I am going to texture them just like we did with the eyelids. So just drag that needle all the way down to the tip, and then roll it and drag it and roll it and drag it until you've got some nice texture there. This is what they look like, and you can see that I've just added some lines, and now we are going to twist them. You don't want to twist them a whole lot, just twist them up to kind of move that texture design around, and then we can start adding them to the piece. So I am going to start with the longer vine on the upper eyelid, and I am just curling the end and then measuring it up just past this corner, and then I'm going to wrap it around the eye, and that extra length I am going to leave down here. And the bottom piece is going to come off right there in that corner. So I've got the shorter one, and I've cut the end of it at an angle here, and I'm just going to press that right up against this extra length and run that along the lower eye. And now I am just going to be adding some shorter ones. So I'm going to start right here by finishing off this line around the eye. And again, I'm just cutting that at an angle and attaching it to the other vine. Just like this, and then I am going to add another one just below that, kind of in the center there. And I made this one kind of overlapping the other one, and now I'm going to add another branch off of the top here. Here it is, and now I am just going to roll out some skinny strings of this brown, and I am not going to texture these. I'm going to just kind of twirl them around these ones that we already put on here. So here is the first one coming off of that inside corner, and I am going to add another one up here on the top, and I'm going to have this one coming out not quite in the center, just off to the side a little bit. And then I'm going to add one more, wrapping off of this long part down here and up the eye. Here it is, and now I am going to go ahead and cut this out. So I have just cut a nice straight line, kind of straight line across the top and bottom, and then squared off the sides as well. And I kind of try to keep that eye placed right in the center diagonally there. And now I'm going to finish adding the rest of this stonework. So we're just going to take those gray dots like we did the first time and fill in all of these empty spaces right up to those edges. This is what it looks like, and you can see that I do have some gaps there, but I did bring this right up to the edge. And now we can finish up our vine work. So I'm going to start up here on the top, and I am just adding another piece off of that first section that we made. And then I'm also going to add another one, kind of splitting off of that last piece that we did to fill in some of this extra space in the corner. Here it is, and now I am going to add two more. I'm going to do one on either side of this long piece here on the lower corner of the eye. Here they are, and finally I am just going to add some smaller pieces, kind of branching off the ends of those last two that I made. This is what they look like, and now we are going to add some moss. So I have got my two greens here, and I am just going to roll both of these colors into some long skinny ropes, and then I'm going to begin cutting off tiny pieces and using them to fill in some of these empty spaces. So I'm going to go kind of heavy on the edging and the corners and a little more subtle working in towards the center. And I am going to do this in sections. So here is my first section placed, and now we are going to add some texture to this. So I've got my Straightpin, and we're just going to be kind of pushing this in and moving it around, and I will show you guys here. Sorry about my focus. It will come back in a second, but I am just pushing this into those cracks and then kind of moving in circular motions to just kind of push it around and make it look more natural, like moss. And the reason you want to do this in sections is simply so that you don't miss any of that texture anywhere. So I'm going to do this section, and then I am just going to continue around the entire piece. Again, kind of heavy on the edges and the corners and more subtle towards the center. This is what it looks like with all of the moss, and I also want to add some moss to these vines. But before we do that, I want to highlight that whole area with mica powder. So I have got a flat brush here, and I am going to be using gold on the eyelid and bronze on the vines themselves. And we're just highlighting, so I am just brushing it on there very lightly. Here is the eyelid. And here is that bronze on the vines, and now we can begin adding a little bit of moss here. So this time I have rolled these out into some very skinny little pieces, and I am just going to be placing them kind of randomly and not using a whole bunch. You just want very subtle moss texture on these vines. And this is what it looks like, and now I'm going to go ahead and texture those. This is what it looks like, and now we can add the rest of our mica powders. So I'm going to be using that crystal white on these stones and some of the green and yellow to highlight that moss. Here it is, and this piece is finished. It's ready to go in the oven. And again, I am just going to place the whole mug in the oven, and I'm going to cook that at 275 for around an hour and a half. So because we had good surface contact, that design will feel pretty well secured after it's baked and cooled, and it might even last for a long time. But without gluing, it will without a doubt eventually come off of here. So I am just going to take my blade end of my tool and show you guys how to remove this. Now again, because we use that flat backing, it should come off cleanly. So we are going to start on the edge, and I am just going to stick that blade right under the corner here and drag it gently down the side, keeping the blade pointed into the cup. You don't want to pry it off. And at some point, that design will just pop off of there. You likely won't even make it all the way around before it comes off, and you shouldn't have to worry about it breaking or losing pieces as long as you're careful. Here it is, guys, and now I am just going to clean and dry this cup really well and glue this back down. And I am using Gorilla Glue, but you could use another clay-safe adhesive such as E6000. Here is the finished piece, and I did seal this with a satin varnish just to keep those mica powders from rubbing off. That is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed making this mug. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more.